KFAN.
The Vikings battle with Baltimore this Sunday at noon. Pregame starts at 10 a.m. You can catch every tackle, big hit, touchdown, game-changing play right here on KFAN. Or you can go with the free iHeartRadio app.
We are back. Bumper to Bumper is the name of the program. It's hour number 2 of a 3-hour Friday football beast, or we affectionately refer to it also as the afternoon aardvark. Maybe that could be my alter ego. You know, between up until 3 o'clock and anytime after 6:30 or 6 on a day like this, I'm just Dan Barreiro, but between 3 and whenever this show is on, the aardvark. Although the problem is the aardvark doesn't sound as vital, feisty, intense as 9, does it? In a football sense. Maybe I need to do some aardvark research. Maybe I am underestimating the tenacity and perhaps even the competitive spirit of your average aardvark. We might have, I'm guessing we've got an aardvark expert out there or two. Hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 646-86. 646-86. By the way, I think today is the day that Asante Samuel Jr. visits here. I think he was in your town yesterday, and I think he's in Minnesota today, if I'm not mistaken. He's also eventually visiting the Bears. I think there's like 6 or 7 teams he's visiting. Did you hear anything from your Green Bay sources about how it went? Did it go swimmingly?
I didn't. I just know that they're very interested, and he was there. So that's about all I got. I think they're keeping it relatively close to the chest.
Gerby is nuts. 9's got guts. Common sinks putts. Vikings in 5. That's not bad. Dan, what's going to happen once teams blitz the Vikings quarterback relentlessly and he can't bail out of it by running? Well, that's going to be part of the test. That's the challenge for any talented young QB. The better you play, the more they pay attention to you. And the more they try to find your weaknesses and challenge you to do something about them. It's no different with, this quarterback or any other young quarterback. You either handle it or you fade into obscurity. I mean, that's basically the two choices. That's where you go. You could go with the I'm the Razor and then change the name of the show to the Sports Razor. How many Sports Razor shows do we have across the country?
Probably a lot.
The Razor. The Sports Razor. So sharp. Kind of like the Sports Razor. I hadn't heard that one before. Is that new? I'm not going to read that one. How about the a-hole in the afternoon? You could do that. I could go with that too. Yeah, it's been suggested before. That would not be necessarily the first time. The Beast will include visits with Lavelle at 4:30 and Ben Gessling at 5:30 as well. I do want to mention, we got back into the subject just a few days ago regarding this particular story isn't a gambling scandal, but it's a story that if it's allowed to play out the way the NCAA apparently is considering, to become another considerable, and I'd say very widespread, college sports scandal. And that has to do with I think the date is coming up. Is it later this month? They've kind of delayed the decision that originally seemed to be a slam dunk, that the NCAA was going to say, if you are an eligible college player or athlete, you are allowed, or you will be allowed, to bet on professional sports. It's a horrific notion. It's a dangerous idea. And we talked about the likelihood that maybe the NCAA is scared off, A, by losing almost every time in court when it tries to follow through with an edict, or B, that they're worried that they couldn't win the court battle if there were individuals representing certain players who say, you do not have a right to get in the way of us gambling, not on college games, but on professional games. I would say you just have to hire the best lawyers and go ahead and fight that fight. You at least have to try. You have to give the appearance that you're well aware, as I think it was the SEC Commissioner, Sankey, say, that we're asking for significant scandal and trouble if we do not discourage this notion or try to ban the idea of college athletes betting on pro sports. And, you could, on the first surface, say, what's the big deal? They're in college and they're not allowed to bet on their own sports. But as has been pointed out on this show by several, it's not difficult to see some scenarios where a college kid already in hock to the local bookie finds out that the bookie says, "Hey kid, I'll waive what you owe me, but you need to do me a favor. You need to let the defensive end that you're up against get by you and sack the quarterback." That was the example that my former compadre Royce had used, which we talked about a couple of days ago. As if the news that we've got at least accusations of betting scandal in pro basketball. We've had investigations, I think one of them still going on in Major League Baseball. We now have, in your sport, one of them, Ultimate Fighting. There are accusations of unusual betting being investigated now before, I think, an event that just took place last weekend. That should be enough. The alarm bell should be everywhere. But we also got word today officially that the NCAA declared 6, count them, 6 former Division I men's basketball players are permanently banned after investigations found they had tried to fix games and provide information to gamblers about how they would manipulate performances and outcomes. The players are not incredibly well known, but they played for legitimate schools: Arizona State, B.J. Freeman, Mississippi Valley State, New Orleans. Investigations are not directly connected and only implicated the players involved, not the schools or any employees. All 6 players are no longer enrolled at their previous schools. And in this case, there were text messages between one of the players we mentioned is Jamon Vincent, who played for University of New Orleans. And he told the recipients to bet on a December 28, 2024 game, a year ago game. It's a year ago in December between New Orleans and McNeese because he and his teammates planned to throw the game. The NCAA's report said Vincent, Hunter, and Short, 2 of his teammates, manipulated their performances in 7 games last December and January. So this isn't like 3 years ago, 4 years, 5 years ago. This is last season. This stuff is going on. Now, again, these are worst-case scenarios having to do with several players conspiring to throw the game. The other issue, which we've talked about, is much more insidious to try to police, is the prop bet. And last time we explored this story, I think we said, let's be honest, the world of sports would be better served if the prop bet went away. Whether that's conceivable, I don't know. There are several states that have outlawed prop bets involving college players, college athletes. I don't know if they'd consider to take it further. But the prop bet is in a lot of ways, it's a lot more insidious in that it can involve simply allowing a passed ball if you're a catcher, or, not taking 3 shots in the first quarter, depending again on what the prop bet is, how many points you're going to have in that quarter. So to that extent, you don't have to go as far as throwing the game, but you are nevertheless cheating the game, and you are nevertheless opening up the door to scandal that will influence the approach that players indeed take. So I'll just say to the NCAA, it might be time to grow some cojones and to say, look, even if we might be challenged in court and we might lose, we got to fight the fight here. Because nobody in their right mind can tell me, especially in the current landscape, with the number of investigations going on and the announcement today that just sort of acting laissez-faire and saying no big deal, no harm, no foul is the way to go. Every sport that every commissioner that polices that particular sport, I think should be spending, if not most of his time or her time on this subject right now, should be spending probably at least 50% of it to come up with the best ways to combat this and try to get it under control. Because we're getting pretty close, I think, to a time where it feels like the collective weight of this thing is going to make us feel like, well, this is a little out of control. And then you're going to get into the area of, well, what can I trust? What results can I trust? And again, it's not like every player is doing it. Not everybody even close to doing it in the NBA. But enough of this stuff is happening in drips and drabs across the sports landscape that, to me, everybody in a position of authority should be working overtime to come up with some helpful solutions. As long as the genie's out of the bottle, because we're not realistically going back to, I don't think we're going to have a declaration from like the NBA commissioner saying, you know what, we decided. Those relationships we've established, the encouraging of sports gambling, et cetera, we're going the other way again. We were wrong to go down this road. We're refusing all that money. We're going to renegotiate all these deals, and as soon as we can get out of them, we're going to. It ain't going to go that way. ESPN just announced a huge new deal that starts, I think, next month with FanDuel. So, we're not going back. So if we're not going back, we got to at least take our best shot at minimizing this or discouraging it or workable solutions to get past it as well. Bonus bucks? We got something going?
Yes, we do. The Fan and 2 men in a junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks in the National Cash Contest at KFAN.com. The keyword is win this hour. Keyword win, KFAN.com. Keyword win. Grace Home Services has your shot to win 4 tickets to see Green Bay take on the Purple in early January, plus $500 in game day cash. Register for your chance to win today on the KFAN contest page. Also, KFAN.com/furnace. KFAN.com/furnace.
I don't understand some of the texts that are coming in because these are folks, I think, who live to gamble. I'm not a Puritan. I'm not here to look down on you or to tell you that you shouldn't. You do with it whatever you can, whatever you must, with whatever you earn. But what you're talking about has nothing to do with the story at hand here. It's almost like there's a defensiveness being built in by gamblers who feel like they're under attack. I'm not here to attack gamblers. I am here to say these pro sports, if they're going to get as cozy as they have with various betting agencies and enterprises, they need to be even more vigilant than ever and be more creative than ever about trying to create as much protection as they can. Example, gambling is going to occur whether it's permitted or not. If it's legal, it will tend to occur in an above-board manner. What the hell does that have to do with athletes, players betting? You're not, if you're trying to start, I know there's people frustrated in our audience because sports gambling is not legal here. And if it was up to me, it would have been legalized a long time ago. I don't lose any sleep over it, though. I'm not going to say to you that if I'm ranking issues that this is the one that eats away at me over and over again. I mean, so if you come to me with the, well, better make it legal, it's better to make it legal, that has to do with people betting. It's got nothing to do with the subject at hand. I don't understand what exactly you're fighting for when the subject today is the growing concern that as the once impenetrable dividing line, at least officially, between various pro sports leagues and agencies and gambling has been obliterated to the point where, come on over to my side as much as you can. If you can't see, there are already indications that a problem that has always existed, whether the gambling was legal or not, is starting to feel a little bit more widespread. It's starting to feel as if there are ways in which the gambling community has figured out how to maximize this in trying to reach vulnerable athletes that we didn't even think of. Then you're not paying attention, or you're changing the subject for your own selfish reasons, and God bless you if that's what you want to think about. But not, the idea that, I mean, is the notion that if gambling was legal throughout the country, it would be more above board, and it would be less likely that vulnerable athletes would attempt to gain something out of it? Or if they're behind the eight ball because of their own gambling debts, less likely that then they would also be willing maybe to help somebody significant win a prop bet? I mean, what are we talking about here? And here's what it comes off as. It comes off as a number of these folks are so self-absorbed in their desire to gamble that they don't care about this other aspect of the story. That's fine. I'm not asking you to care. I care, because inevitably it has an impact. We're already seeing the impact that it can have on professional sports. And again, we've had gambling scandals going back to the 40s and 50s. It's not like they just started more recently, but as the business has become more mainstream and the types of bets have grown, we're seeing obviously greater possibilities of abuse and scandal. So if you still can't make a legal sports bet in Minnesota, I'm not going to feel that sorry for you, man. I'm sorry. It's just, or if I'm ranking the things that are important to me to pay attention to, it's just not going to be at the top of the list. I'm going to be a lot more interested in how these various sports can be protected than whether you're still, your undies are still in a bunch, because the only way you can enjoy sports is to bet on it. I don't live in that world. I'm not telling you you can't or you shouldn't, but it just doesn't excite me. It does not turn me into someone who wants to make this my number one overriding crusade. This stuff is more timely. This stuff has greater ramifications for all sports fans, because believe it or not, as big as it is, there are a lot of sports fans who don't bet. Or if they do, they bet very little. And I think when you get in that sort of self-absorbed world where all you're thinking about always is point spreads and prop bets, and I got him, and that guy player screwed me, that you can't see the forest for the trees. I'm not here to help you on that. I don't feel sorry. I don't feel that sorry for you pretty much across the board. 64686 is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. And they keep coming in. Just because you don't like to bet doesn't mean nobody else does. I'll ask 612 guy to explain what that had to do with the subject we were exploring today. Where is that germane? It's a different subject that has nothing to do with the breaking news again today that 6 ex-college basketball players have been banned for betting violations and the larger ramifications of that. That's not me saying we know we can go backwards and end betting. But what I'm more interested in is how can we take the best shot at protecting these various sports? And I'll tell you, the idea that the NCAA is still considering saying, yeah, if you're a college kid and you want to bet on a pro game, go ahead. That's stupidity. If indeed the genie is going to stay out of the bottle, That's the subject today. And it's so bizarre. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And again, we have people who don't seem to understand that the notion that if it was above board, everybody's going to play by the above board rules. If you're a college athlete, are you that naive? Do you really believe that that would be enough to end the possibility that a vulnerable kid who's looking for some extra money might not be willing to shall we say, in his own game, change the way he plays? I don't know what world you live in. I know the world you live in. It's so important in your life. You don't want to think that anything should get in the way of it. Sorry, you're not going to find your number one advocate on this show.
Time now for the Vikings Report on The Fan, presented by Miller Lite. Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen joins Dan Barreiro next.
Join the Fan's Corey Cove tonight. Willie McCoy's in Champlin for Coors Light Hockey Night. You can drop by starting at 6 to catch the Wild take on New York. Enjoy ice-cold Coors Light specials and play trivia for your chance to win great prizes, including sweet tickets to a game in January. Full details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
All right, usually Ben Gessling joins us about now and Lavelle at 5:30, but for scheduling purposes, we've switched the two again this week, so Lavelle joins us now via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. If you have questions for him, you can hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. I enjoyed the piece you wrote attempting, I thought very kind of effective deadpan fashion to get any substantive answers out of not the new manager, but the new people that the manager, well, I shouldn't say the new people, the people that the manager is working for, whether it's the president of baseball operations or it's the owner. And I have to ask you, what do you think their game is? Because I refuse to believe that they're too stupid to know the position, whether they think the position they're in is fair or not, the position that they're in. I refuse to believe they're too stupid to not understand that the situation and the backdrop demands a certain level of clarity, perhaps beyond what might ordinarily be expected of a front office. So what do you make of the fact that, do you think it's a matter of time that, okay, we will do all that, but we're going to get through another month or another 2 months? Or why is that such a difficult concept for Falvey and whoever Pohlad is running it right now to understand?
Yeah, especially when I think the fan base would like to hear anything that's encouraging with this organization.
No doubt.
And if they have something that's encouraging, that they should be able to convey that in one way or another. Unless maybe they don't have anything positive to share. Maybe that's why they're being so quiet right now. That they know there's more layers to this that's coming down the pike here. More and more we're all expecting Joe Ryan to be traded during the off season, during the hot stove league. And that makes you wonder, why do you even keep Pablo Lopez? Maybe those things are being deliberated still. I know you had Shelton on your show a couple of days ago. Maybe it was yesterday. No, a couple of days ago.
2 days ago,
and,
yeah.
He said he's
expecting,
preparing for the season as if he's going to have those two in his rotation. But there's got to be they got to be a little more transparent about how they're behaving here, especially everything that's transpired ever since the end of the 2023 playoffs. Where they cut payroll, and then what else did they do? They didn't communicate to the fan base that the television contract was going 6s and 7s, and then cutting more payroll, and then how they've operated this year, and how they may operate this offseason. So, this is going to be their own doing. I'm sure group sales are going to take a hit, because of the uncertainty.
No doubt.
I'm sure season ticket sales are going to take a hit because of the uncertainty, and they have to sit back and understand that, they're responsible for some of this because how they've presented themselves. And I keep telling them the best way to deal with the media and the fan base is to give it information, at least, give them something. They could give them some reason to hope here. Yeah, it's pretty funny. When I walked up to Joe Polat, I was like, Joe, you got time to talk? He just goes, what do you want to talk about? And so I knew that it was going to be a short conversation. So I got what I could out of him. The timeline for the limited partners to get on board, and, what delay and what their plans are and payroll. I got whatever I could extract from them at the time. There were other interviews to do. I was under kind of the time constraint. So, and writing that column, I thought that was the best way to kind of get what he said out there in that type of form and kind of shaping it, because it was, the interview session with Falvey and Shelton about what's the plan.
Yeah, right.
They kind of avoided that question as well. So, I don't know. I want to know what did Polat say to Shelton to make him want that job more? That's why I like to know. I don't know if we ever will. Maybe one day we will. Why did that make him so gung-ho about being the 15th manager of the Minnesota Twins in the offseason, after a regular season in which they traded 10 players at the deadline?
Well, again, some of this is mastering the art of BSing, right? I'm even saying there's an artful way to not give away all the secrets if they still view them as secrets, but at least, articulating something that says that might, I'm not saying there's anything this offseason is going to convince the fans to hang in. The fans are going to have to be won back over. I don't think there's any doubt about that at this point, but it's just, I just scratch my head that it's almost like, well, no, the more you push us to give some of what you think we owe, the less likely that we're going to do it. And they can do it, but I guess I'm curious to know whether they understand how they're cutting their own nose despite their face. They're the ones who lose if they can't give people at least a little sense of, because look, I could even listen to our intention is to bring back the two pitchers that the new manager wants to have at the top of the rotation. That is our intent. And if we make a move, it's not going to be because we're trying to save more money, because in the case of Joe Ryan, right, he's still under their control. Is it 2 more years at a decent price? So if we do that, it's going to be because we feel it's in the best interest long term of the team on the basis of what we get in return. To me, even they won't even say that. You know what I mean? And that's not a promise, but that's at least an indication of, well, all right, if you want to believe them, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe no one will believe anything they say anyway. I feel like we're getting less from them than we ever did before, at a time where they need to volunteer more, I think, than they ever have before.
And when you take this approach, based on what has recently happened with this organization, it's going to make people think that more bad things are coming. So, and so there is a little bit of paranoia over how they may proceed and what's next on this side, because they're not forthcoming or won't kind of just provide a couple nuggets of information that may give the fan base a little nudge of, okay, all right, I can get behind that movement. All right, that sounds good to me. All right, okay, all right. I see. There's a plan here. There's a plan.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, there's no evidence of that. So, we'll see in the coming weeks here, because this is a big busy month. You got GM meetings next week.
Right.
You got owners meetings and toward the end of the month. You got the winter meetings in Orlando. First full week in December. So a month from now, maybe there will be some signs or some tangible results or activities that we can digest.
I mean, there's a part of me that says the reason you couldn't get clearer answers is they do intend to trade the two pitchers at the top of the rotation if they can. And that's not an easy declaration to make, right? Because that's not going to, they'd rather just wait that out and take the heat when it happens as opposed to confirming it. That's the problem with not saying anything. Whether that's their intent or not, that's how it comes off as we might as well assume it, because they're not even willing to go, even that far. So, what does your gut tell you? Does your gut tell you that one or both of those starters are also going to be gone before the season begins, or even before the trade deadline this upcoming season?
My gut was telling me Ryan's was going to get traded at the end of the regular season. It's just how the second half, shook out. I heard he was. How can I say it? I heard you could see and hear how upset he was at the trade deadline when all his teammates got dealt. And I don't know if that touched a nerve with the people above or not, but I also, he also I think he kind of indicated that he expected to get dealt as well. So I don't know it just makes you think that he knows there's something out there that includes him changing teams here. So my spidey senses are tingling over him being traded for sure. Not sure on Pablo. Pablo maybe the guy ends up being like the Brad Rackey of this current decade, where he's going to have to be like the one stalwart on the developer rotation and see if they can get things over the hump here. But something's telling me that Ryan's going to be the one that gets traded.
Well, it'll remain to be seen. Obviously, we'll have plenty of time to talk about it. Did the Vikings show you enough last week against the Lions to believe that they can become the team they thought they were going to be before the season began a viable playoff threat? Where are you on what's fair to take out of the impressive road victory over the Lions?
Well, they're slowly getting healthy. I think that's part of what we saw on Sunday was the impact someone like when you have all the parts in place, when you have Van Ginkel on the field, and Cashman, and you saw the defensive tackles play better, which was a necessity against the run. So that's encouraging. It's encouraging that after that embarrassing loss, when they got just scorched in the secondary against the Chargers, that there was a bounce back with a healthy team and Brian Flores making all the right plays. So they resembled the Vikings more defensively last week, I thought, than any time during this regular season. So if they can get back to that, they're going to be on more games. Do I think they got everything figured out? Not yet, because your quarterback is still, it's going to be on a roller coaster ride. There's going to be moments he makes fantastic throws, when he makes the right decision, when he runs at the right time, like when he had the touchdown run, but there's going to be moments when he throws a pick, when he doesn't get the play called in time, when he doesn't have their protection set up at the right times. There's going to be breakdowns. Aaron Jones, is he going to run like he's 3 years younger, like he did last week? I mean,
he did look good. He did.
Yeah, that was encouraging too. So, and then Darisaw is healthier, and O'Neal's healthier, and that's all good, fair indications. And if they get their center back, that would be huge. It sounds like he's at least he's appearing, like standing on the sidelines now at games. So I guess he's making some sort of progress. So, but in NFL, it's not who you play, but it's when you catch them. And I think this is going to be a good test for the Vikings this week. They're catching a Ravens team that feels that they've got everything back on track because their leader, Lamar Jackson, is healthy now. Yeah. They got some other pieces back. They didn't have anybody on the injury report this week, which I can't remember the last time I've heard that for a team in the NFL. And when they feel like their superhero, is healthy and Lamar's on the field, they feel like they could beat anybody. So this is going to be a kind of a fascinating game because I think the Ravens are better than a 3-win team. I think the Vikings are a little bit better than a 500 team. So, but I'm not convinced yet. You got to be able to sustain this and stack wins and win different ways and have your quarterback continue to improve before you can say the Vikings have everything figured out.
Well, to your point, the hard part now about stacking wins is I believe the schedule for the rest of the season, the Vikings their schedule ranks the hardest or very close to the hardest in the league. And so stacking is not easy. I mean, you have Baltimore here at least at home, and then what is it, the Bears next week? That's certainly winnable. But then you got the 2-game road trip, I think, to Green Bay. Is it Green Bay and Seattle? I think after that. So
yeah, I got the Seattle game.
Yeah, and so that makes the stacking harder. But then again, they made their own bet early by not taking advantage of that 5-game start where they went 3-2, and they should have gone minimum 4-1. if they wanted to be serious. The stat I saw somewhere today is that Lamar Jackson against NFC opponents' during his career, he's 24-3, which obviously doesn't mean it's loser-proof for the Ravens, but is a pretty significant stat. So, as you say, you sort of got to play the thing out. Now, let me widen it out to the division a little bit. The Bears are hosting the Giants. They're favored. So they have, you could say at the very least, a realistic chance to improve to 6-3. And I'll be honest with you, I don't view them as a 6-3 team, even though they've certainly made strides. Like offensively, last week against Cincinnati, and that's not a very good defense. But they had, I think, close to 600 yards total offense, and what was it, 47 points? So he's obviously doing some stuff, the new head coach, offensively, but I can't tell you, it looks hollow to me. If they get to 6-3, I wouldn't view them as a legitimate 6-3 team. What do you make of them?
I agree with you. I'm not sold on them being a legitimate 6-3 team. By the way, that game was the first time the Bears had won a game in which they allowed 40 or more points since, I want to say, 2008 against the Vikings. There was a 41-40 game, I believe, that they won. And so that was one statistical nugget I just read the other day. Dan, the Bears have had a very favorable schedule. They've had some crummy teams. They've played Vegas, They played Cincinnati's defense. I don't know if you saw, there was a fan in the stands during the game. He held up a sign. When you're bad at school, you have to say, I will not play I will not play with my cards anymore. He had a sign that said, I will not miss a tackle. I will not miss a tackle.
I'm glad you brought that up. Tremendous. One of the best in-stadium signs I have ever seen, shown at the perfect time after like 4 Bengals swung and missed on the Bears' new tight end on the game-winning touchdown play.
Yeah, by the time the Bears get here to play the Vikings, I will say this: they have signs that they have figured out an offensive line. The run game has improved.
Yes, that's true.
Mononga's gained 175 yards last week. DeAndre Swift is healthy for this week. The interior of the offensive line definitely is better. Probably can still use a left tackle, but the guy they're starting there, the Canadian, Theo Benedict, he's very good against the run, and he's learning against the pass. Secondary's got all kinds of injuries, and that's where they're really vulnerable through the air, especially if they don't get any pressure on the quarterback. And although Montez Sweat has played better. But here's the thing. You talk about the Vikings schedule getting tougher. I think the Bears may lose at least 4 or maybe all 5 of their last 5 games of the regular season. They have in order Green Bay, Cleveland, Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit. That's how they finish their season.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So they got to get to 10 wins before they get to that stretch if they think they have a chance to make the postseason. Because there's fans in Chicago who are mad that the Bears didn't make a big splash and go over the top of bringing a stud defensive lineman, because they're thinking, we're going to the playoffs. So I'm not ready to call the Bears a playoff team by any stretch of the imagination. They need to get more pressure on the quarterback. They need their secondary to get healthy. And they've had some tackling issues as well. And Caleb is still going through growing pains, man. The false start penalties, not getting calls played on time. There's a lot of things that break down. Now, he's made some nice plays, and when he goes off script, he still figures out a way to get things done. But, the Bears being 5-3, I think that's probably the best it could be at this point. I like their chances of winning on Sunday, although the Giants actually have one of the better defensive fronts in the league, and it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for them to see how they can run the ball and keep doing all those other guys, off of Caleb. We will see. But it's a fascinating division with how the Lions like one of the best teams in football until last week, and the Packers keep winning games. Although I think there's yards to be had against that secondary. Fred Blakeborough may differ with me, we haven't seen the best the Vikings can offer by any stretch of the imagination. So it's going to be really fun here down the stretch.
On that note, we'll say goodbye because we're up against the clock. We got Gessling coming up at 5:30. What's the Sunday column?
I'm going to St. Thomas again tomorrow for the first ever basketball games at the new Liam Peggy Anderson Arena. And your gal's going to be there performing at a halftime of the men's game. Red Panda, who's off the IL, she's going to be
she's
performing.
back.
How about that?
And she got hurt here. Wasn't it here where she broke her arm? Or her wrist?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's back. That's emotional. Good for her.
I know. I'm trying to see if I can get an audience with her, but I haven't heard back from the school.
Yeah,
we'll
she's got people, man. Be careful. I don't want you to get strong-armed or anything.
No, me, no. Come on, I'm a nice, pleasant fellow.
That's very true. Lavelle, have a great weekend. We'll read you Sunday, and thanks as always.
All right, thanks, man.
Lavelle E. Neal III. Top 5 is next with...
We have breaking wild news that changes everything.